Hello. If you're watching the replay, please make sure you comment on the video after it's posted and subscribe to the YouTube channel, which is People's Press Media. My name is Catherine Vitale, and I'm a candidate for Boston City Council at large. I do this show, Common Ground, 3 times a week. I stream live on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 10 p.m. And the point of the show is to try to build a bridge between the political left and right and find common ground with people that we would typically disagree with and have uncomfortable conversations that we've been avoiding so that we can focus on the real fight and the real enemy, which is the government or the establishment, as some would call it. And I've been doing this now for just about a month. I did have a co-host, but she had a scheduling conflict and had to go. So I try to bring on guests as much as possible because I'd rather talk to somebody else on screen than look at myself talk. But yeah, so if you ever want to be a guest on the show or you ever want to suggest a topic, please let me know. And always looking for ideas and what to talk about. Today, I decided to just do a Boss Polly episode. So I'm going to talk about all of the Boston issues that I have going on right now. The first one being that we have court tomorrow in West Roxbury Court, which is in Jamaica Plain. Which for anybody that doesn't know, these are both neighborhoods in Boston. We have court, myself and Shannon, for being arrested for disturbing the peace in front of the Boston Mayor Michelle Wu's house back in June. So it's been quite some time since the arrests, and not to mention the fact that when we were arrested, there were 4 of us. So 4 of us got arrested at the same time with the same charges, but the other 2 girls' cases were dismissed and ours are still going on for some reason. Doesn't make any sense. There is no logical reason behind that decision. They did say at one point, I think the DA's office said that they had considered the all 4 of our previous criminal records or whatever, and that's why they made that decision, but it was actually kind of backwards. Neither myself nor Shannon have a criminal record, so it's just very interesting that our cases are still going on and the others were dismissed. So we have court tomorrow morning in West Roxbury Courthouse. We're always looking for court support, so if you want to show up and be present to show support for the First Amendment, because that's what this is an attack on our First Amendment. Excuse me. So I'm just going to tell the story. I know pretty much anybody that knows us probably knows the story, but in hopes that there's other people watching that haven't heard the story yet, we started protesting Michelle Wu, who's the mayor of Boston. Shame on Wu. In December of 2021. She had just become our new mayor in November of 2021. And then she came right in with the vaccine mandates for all of the city workers in the city of Boston. At the time, I think it was if they were vaccinated, they either had to be vaccinated or test for COVID. I think they tested every week or every other week or something like that. So when she came in with her mandates, she took away the testing option and said everybody has to be vaccinated or they're out. So if you didn't get the COVID jab, you were going to lose your job. So at that time, we had already been, like, a few of us active for over a year at that point, and we had met some city workers in Boston that were resisting these mandates. Shayna Catone being one of them from the Boston First Responders United, and we kind of teamed up with them and resisted and helped them fight because an attack on one person's rights is an attack on everybody's rights ultimately. And when there's injustice anywhere, there's injustice everywhere. So I don't subscribe to the whole I'm not going to help them fight because they're not on my side. I feel like we're all on each other's sides. And yeah, there may be different causes sometimes that some people, feel more passionately toward, or some people don't agree on. But when it comes to an issue that affects everybody, I see no reason why everybody wouldn't be taking a stand. So we teamed up with them. And of course, the issue of vaccine mandates in the media and with the politicians always seems to come down to what they want to make a left or right issue, left versus right issue, where, the right side is seemingly against the mandates and the left side is seemingly for the mandates, which doesn't really make any sense. I don't understand why anybody would be for forcing you to undergo a medical procedure to keep your job. But yeah, so we teamed up with them. We protested the press conference at City Hall in December of 2021, where Michelle Wu was announcing these new mandates. And I think there were about 200 people there in City Hall that day. And then there was some group had scheduled and advertised a big rally that was going to happen in front of City Hall. They call it a protest. I call it a rally. Because there was like a massive amount of people that were going to come there. And I don't think they were actually going to go in the building or try to shame any elected officials or anything. They were just going to be outside. So they had scheduled this rally to be outside of City Hall in the first week in January. And it was highly publicized. And the mayor and the city council president, Ed Flynn, announced the day before this rally that there was a spike in COVID cases. So City Hall was going to be closed for the next 2 weeks. So just in case you didn't know, there was an initial actual reason why we went to Michelle Wu's house. They closed down City Hall. So for everybody who said, take your fight to City Hall, that's their workplace, don't bring it to their home. Well, at that point, they were working at their homes and it needed to be addressed. So we went to her house, across the street from her house. We protested. The city ordinance for noise is 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. So you can't make excessive noise between those hours. So we would go at about 7 a.m. because that's when you can start being loud and make noise. Protest, signs, buckets, whistles, whatever, right? And shame her until she left for work. And then we would leave. We did it a couple times a week. The media and Michelle Wu and even people on the city council tried to portray it or depict it as we were there every single day. We were never there every single day. We went a couple times a week, if that. And when they did open City Hall and I protested at City Hall, I got arrested just for blowing a whistle. So that's how I feel about the just go to City Hall bullshit. And so we protested her. a few times a week. Sometimes we protested her at our house. Sometimes we protested her at City Hall. Sometimes we protested her in her press conferences when she was out in public. We never did anything like out of line. Maybe people didn't like our language, but free speech isn't always nice. It isn't always polite. It's not always pleasing to the ear, but a protest is not meant to be pleasing to the ear. A protest is meant to disturb and disrupt and shame public officials. And that's what we were doing. We weren't trying to have a good time. It's definitely not a good time when you're standing outside in Boston in January at 7:00 in the morning. It's not a fun time. I think there was one morning that it was like -7 degrees outside and we were out there. So, it wasn't, it's not a joke. Like, and anybody, you can disagree with the cause or not. I'm not knocking you fighting for your cause, So if you are on the left or a Democrat or whatever, and you think that like the anti-vaxxers are just these crazy people that are, going to these great extremes to fight for this ridiculous cause, we could say the same thing about you, about anything that you fight for. So I just think that that's crazy that people who have been involved in activism or people who have been involved in a protest, where do you get off judging the way that we're fighting? Because if you were relentlessly doing public action to fight for your cause, I'm not saying anything about it. Just because you don't agree with my stance on the cause, you think that I shouldn't have the right to do something that you would absolutely do? Because there were leftists and Democrats protesting at Frank Baker's house in 2020, making all kinds of noise out there, throwing shit at his house and everything else. And also before that at Marty Walsh's house, So, and Michelle Wu's house is not the only house we've been to either. We had been to other elected officials' houses outside of Boston before we ever even protested Michelle Wu at all. So the notion that we have this like hate for Michelle Wu because of her race or her gender or whatever the case may be is absolutely ridiculous. But of course, that's what the media is going to try to depict it as, is that we're these racist, white supremacists, anti-LGBTQ, blah, 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 right? All of those things, sure. But yeah, so we have a cause. We're fighting for the cause. And, fuck your opinions on the cause, because if you agreed and, you're involved in activism, you would be fighting just as hard, especially if you couldn't address this person at their place of work. So, yeah, so that's where I was going with that. Thank you, Mary. Was that it wasn't even completely about being anti-vax. Like, I'm an anti-vaxxer. I have no problem saying that. I'm against all vaccines at this point. And, I'm pretty sure that most anti-vaxxers are actually ex-vaxxers, because I'm pretty sure that if you are fully informed on vaccines and what they do and, whatever, I'm probably saying that word way too much to be on the internet. I'm going to get banned. But if you are informed, then you're against it or you're not informed enough. That's how I see it. I don't see how anybody could know the things that I know or the things that we know or that people know and still be dying to inject their children. I don't see how that's possible. So, and that's with every jab, not just this one. If you still think that there are safe ones, please dig deeper than a simple Google search, because there are no safe ones. But regardless, the protesting wasn't just about that. There were tons of people protesting that were not anti-vaxxers. that there were people protesting that had the COVID vaccine, actually, and people that supported us that have gotten the COVID vaccine and still actually believe in it, right? But the point is that you're injecting something into your body. So, especially, if you've ever said anything about my body, my choice when it comes to abortion, why is this not the same issue? My body, my choice. If I want an injection, I'll get an injection. If you don't. What's the problem with that? So why are we shouting my body, my choice when it comes to killing a baby, but we're not shouting my body, my choice when it comes to potentially losing your career over injecting something into your body? It doesn't make any sense. Their jobs were on the chopping block. People that had been in these careers, police officers, firefighters, EMTs, all these emergency response workers, teachers, faculty, anybody who worked for the city of Boston. And that's not to ignore the people that actually did get fired in 2021 by Charlie Baker and people that had state jobs, corrections officers, state troopers, people in hospitals. My friend Sean Nelson, who's also been arrested 3 times in Boston, who's also running for Boston City Councilor at large. Sean Nelson was fired from Boston Medical Center in 2021. There were tons of people that got fired. There were other protesters who, were joining in the fight against Michelle Wu's administration from outside of Boston too, that had already gotten fired in 2021 because of Charlie Baker's executive order. So why anybody would be okay with any of this is beyond me. And I think that you should, take a second look at yourself if you have ever fought for any cause on the left and didn't align with this fight just because you didn't want to align with somebody on the right. Like, what do you even stand for? Do you even have any values or morals? I don't think so. Because if fighting for a cause is contingent on what you think it'll do to your reputation, you're not a fighter. Go sit down. Seriously. It wasn't about just a vaccine. It was about being able to have a say and not lose your job over a decision that you're making for your own health. And there's tons of people that didn't get behind that, and tons of people who, I've met and I've talked to, who were against us protesting or against us going to her house, who actually essentially agree and didn't step up and fight, and that's really sad, because any human rights issue should be important to anybody who claims to be fighting for human rights, and this is definitely a human rights issue. So anyway, we were protesting in front of Michelle Wu's house from January to March. Some point in February, she writes this proposal to the city council to pass a new city ordinance to put restrictions on targeted residential picketing. So the big factor here that nobody paid attention to, or people want to just look past, is that this includes all types of picketing. So you can say what you want about the noise that we were making, but it also includes silent picketing or just standing in protest. You don't even have to be holding a sign. You don't have to make any noise. You don't have to hold a sign. She wanted to limit targeted residential picketing to be between the hours of 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. Meaning if you're out there anytime before 9 a.m., which we were going there at 7 a.m., or anytime after 9 p.m., which we never did any night protests, and I don't see a reason to do night protests other than, just to add an extra level of annoyance and disturbance, right? We protested in the morning so that we had a pretty good chance of seeing her when she was on her way to work. That was the purpose of it. And she wanted to limit it to 9 a.m. because she's at work at 9 a.m. So if we're protesting on her street at 9 a.m., it's not affecting her, right? She doesn't have to face us if we're there past 9 a.m. So she can say what she wants about it being about her neighbors. If we go there at 9 a.m., who are we bothering? Not Michelle Wu, her neighbors, right? So that argument is out the window. It's not about the neighbors because the neighbors will still be annoyed if they're home past 9 a.m. The only person who's not going to be affected when we're there past 9 a.m. is Michelle Wu. So they had a community meeting, the neighbors with the police, to talk about how they were going to get rid of us. The city council did a working session, which is absolutely ridiculous, 3 hours long. The shit that comes out of these people's mouths, that like some of them don't even understand how laws work. Clearly, if you watch this one working session, I couldn't even imagine trying to listen to them talk like on a regular basis about laws because they don't understand. Ed Flynn, forcing the fact that this was about how we were treating Michelle Wu. Kendra Lara, maybe Tanya Fernandez Anderson. They're talking about, I think Kenzie Bach saying, alleging that we were harassing her and that this was more than just protesting. This doesn't make any sense. How is it more than protesting? The amount of times that I've been within a 10-foot distance of Michelle Wu, I couldn't even tell you. I've been a face-to-face with that woman. Nothing that we did could ever be interpreted as any kind of threat or, potentially dangerous situation. The worst that we did was yell or swear. We never got too close to her. We never would try to get too close to her. We wanted to be heard by her. And not to mention the amount of police that they were using in front of her house. They would be 5 protesters and 18 police officers sometimes. Ridiculous. Waste of resources, waste of money. And even the days that we weren't there, they had extra detail there. Just in case. And then once we showed up, they would send in more. So, but there was nothing bad ever happening. The worst we did was get loud and maybe swear, So to say that we were harassing or that she was scared or anything like that is complete and total bullshit. There was nothing scary or intimidating about anything that we did, unless you are that weak or scared that you think that a profanity is threatening. I don't know what to tell you. Get out of Boston, right? I'm from Boston. That's just how we talk. So anyway, February, she puts this proposal into the city council to pass this ordinance. They had a public hearing about it. Whole bunch of us testified at this hearing. It got laughed at by Ricardo Arroyo. The thing was virtual, of course, because they wouldn't dare have this conversation with us in person. It was a complete fucking shit show, per usual. The hearing, and then they had a working session between them with the legal counsel and the police, and it's all a show. All these things are always a show. They don't care what the people think. They're going to do what they're going to do. They're going to do what they're instructed to do. So, yeah, I've seen out of the corner of my eye that there's been a few comments coming in. So I haven't looked at them yet. But this one, the community didn't have a meeting. Wu called it for her neighbors. Yeah, she did. The community, the neighbors, Wu's neighbors had a meeting with the local police station, and we're pretty sure that Wu actually went around and asked her neighbors to come to this meeting. It was not the neighbors that wanted to have a meeting. It was Wu asking them to go have a meeting so that they could determine who like the victims would be when they wanted to charge us with disturbing peace. And the funny thing too is that in this meeting, her neighbor, her 97-year-old vet neighbor who used to come out regularly and talk shit to us while we were protesting, in that meeting, he told the police that he wanted to shoot us. And nothing was ever said or done about that. So I'm pretty sure that the single most threatening thing that ever happened at any of these protests, whether they were in front of her house or out in public elsewhere, I mean, both are in public, but we went to parks and press conferences and City Hall. We saw her all kinds of places. Regardless, anywhere that we protested her, nothing even close to threatening happened. And then this guy says in a meeting at a police station in front of police that he wants to shoot us. And nobody says or does anything about it. And I'm sure this man is armed. He's a vet. So it's not far-fetched to be a little, nervous that this man who's out there, this older man is out there talking shit to us every day and told the police that he wants to shoot us. That made me nervous. He even, like one time, Lori says, the raker, he was outside one time raking his yard and like going like this toward us with the rake. Like we never did anything even close to threatening or said anything close to threatening. And you'll see in the media how they try to depict us as like these evil, hateful people. And, like, the famous quote, "Happy birthday, Hitler." Like, get over it. Shut up. Seriously. Sticks and stones, guys. Sticks and stones. Seriously. This whole like anti-hate, like the need to fight anybody who makes a racist remark or hateful comment or whatever. How about just don't give hate a platform? How about if somebody says something hateful, let them have their opinions and ignore them? Who gives a shit? How is it affecting your life if somebody says something racist or hateful? I don't know. But yeah, so this man said that he wanted to shoot us. Nobody cared. Nobody paid any mind to that. So they have the hearing and the working session. And if you haven't watched the working session, I highly recommend it. It was March 25th, 2022. You can see it on YouTube on the Boston City Council live stream. It's pretty ridiculous. And then like March 31st or 30th or something, they passed the ordinance. They took a vote. It was 9-1. The city councilors that voted against it were Frank Baker, who actually just announced the other day that he's not running for re-election. So that's really sad because he was kind of the only one who had balls to stand up to these people and Wu. So it's pretty sad he's not running again. But Frank Baker, Erin Murphy, who is running for re-election and, does seem to be like on the side of the people in most issues, but I think she's a little bit timid for me. I feel like I need her to be louder and speak more because I mean, like she does a lot of work, I guess. People tell me it seems, but I need her to do more. I don't know. So it is seeming that she's on the side of the people, and she did vote against the ordinance, so that's good. And then Julia Mejia, who she voted against the ordinance because she saw it for what it was. You know, encroaching on the First Amendment, some, a situation that would have unintended consequences because it would have to be applied to everybody across the board. And, if people are targeting a residence for any other reason, then this could be used against them. And that's what she saw it for. And that's what it should have been seen for. Same thing with Kendra Lara. I don't like Kendra Lara at all. I think she's in way over her head, but she also voted no because she saw the unintended consequences that would come along with it. So, but Kendra Lara got crazy though, because she even went so far in the working session as to say, can we make the language of the ordinance more specific to say if it's a negative protest, if people are protesting against something. So, like, for her example, like if there's a group doing an early morning protest, protesting a landlord for tenants' rights, they're protesting in favor of the tenant that lives there. And it's just like you should hear that and like want to rip your hair out of your head, because I think that she should know, somebody should school her on the fact that a law cannot, like a law about, you can't make laws to about the content of your speech. Like, free speech is free speech. It doesn't matter what you're saying. You're supposed to be able to say whatever you want to say. So it can't be content specific. And they were trying to tell her that. And the lawyer, Adam Cedarbaum, he looked like he was going to cry because they were being so loose and so stupid with what they were saying in this fucking working session. And he was like trying to explain it to them without explaining it to them like you're an idiot. Same thing with Ed Flynn. Ed Flynn's like, you got to watch these videos. Yeah. Adam, you shouldn't even like be having this conversation if you haven't watched the videos yet. And it's like, yeah, dude, that's the point. Like, it's not supposed to be content specific. You're not supposed to like let the public know that you are intending to pass this law to specifically target one small group of people. That's not what laws are for. You're not supposed to target individuals and groups of people based on their beliefs or their free speech. That's not how laws were intended to work. But they did, though. Yes, our Woo protest was in favor of Boston workers' rights. So shout out to May Day and everybody involved with May Day. Hopefully all of those groups support us and are protesting, because we were protesting for the city workers of Boston to be able to keep their jobs. Yeah, so they passed the ordinance. The ordinance was supposed to be, like a civil infraction, and it had a fine structure where first offense you get fined $50, second offense you get fined $150, third offense you get fined $300, and any after that $300. Nobody ever got a fine. Immediately the day that it passed, people were out there. They told us we couldn't use megaphones anymore. We stopped using the megaphones because we weren't trying to get them to take away our shit. 8 people got summons to a clerk magistrate's hearing. That was 2 weeks away from that date. They had their clerk magistrate hearing, and it was dismissed right then and there. Nobody got a fine. Then a couple people went back. That's really like what he did, though. a couple people went back, and that's when Shannon got arrested. She was the first to get arrested. But they made a mistake when they arrested her. They charged her with the ordinance. So they had to get dismissed, and that was Judge Key did rule that a wrongful arrest. So they fucked up there. And then what? Like 2 months later, a group of us went back, and this was after her first arrest was ruled unlawful, wrongful, whatever his wording was. So we went back thinking, okay, now we're just going to get fines, right? Because he ruled her arrest wrongful. No. Now they arrested the four of us, and we were all charged with disturbing the peace. So what was happening was the Boston police was meeting with the people at the courthouse, and the people at City Hall were also in on the conversations, and everybody's sitting at a round table trying to figure out, how can we get rid of these people? How can we effectively silence these people? She doesn't want to deal with them. We're sick of having to deal with them. And, we just want to get rid of them. They're annoying, right? We got to get rid of them. How can we get rid of them? What can we do? Throwing shit at the wall until something sticks. Ding, ding, ding. Disturbing the peace. But I just think it's funny how disturbing peace has already been ruled somewhere. There's case law. Somebody put it in the comments, please, because I don't have this shit off the top of my head. But it's already been ruled that you can't be charged with disturbing the peace while you're protesting. Because literally the point of a protest is to be disturbing and disruptive. So when you're engaging in protest, then it is a First Amendment violation to charge somebody engaging in protest with disturbing the peace. They charged us with disturbing the peace. The other two girls that were there, their case got dismissed right away. Me and Shannon, this was last June. What's that? 10 months? 10 months now? Almost 11? We're about to be at a year. And we have court tomorrow. It's still going on. Like, no end in sight as far as I they don't understand. I mean, I do understand, but for one, it's insane. But it's even more insane that nobody cares. Nobody's making a big deal about this. Nobody's stepping up. We have all of these nonprofits and human rights activists all over Boston. Every other day, I'm seeing a protest about something. There's so many people in Boston that care so much about human rights. Nobody cares about this issue, except for the people that were involved from the beginning. Why? Heidi, who's a leftist activist, comes to our court dates, does standouts for us, and gets ridiculed by the other activists on the left. Why? This is a First Amendment issue. If you think for 1 second that as soon as you do something that they disagree with, they won't use this against you, you're wrong. It doesn't matter what the cause is. It doesn't matter what the messaging is. The point is, it's a First Amendment issue. We go down, everybody goes down. And it's the same vice versa. If there's a First Amendment issue happening about, an initial issue that I didn't agree with, but now it became a First Amendment violation, now I care. Because I understand that the First Amendment affects everybody. The First Amendment belongs to everybody. Everybody should be concerned. Everybody should be fighting. Everybody should be showing up for court support tomorrow. Yeah, it's gonna go to trial. Sorry, I keep saying So that's it about the ordinance. We're still in court over that, and we have effectively been silenced. And I don't see anybody from the city council saying anything about it. They don't give a shit. 9 of them were in favor of this ordinance passing, and nobody cares that the police are not executing the ordinance as written. So, I mean, like, fuck the 9 people, the 9 city councilors that voted in favor of it. But even more so, the 4 who voted against it, where are you? Frank Baker, Aaron Murphy, Julia Mejia, Kendra Lara voted against it, and now it's being abused, and the police are not executing it as written. This is where you're supposed to step in. Kendra Lara, especially, because this, I was told by Julia Mejia, is the committee that you're on, like complete police accountability, or, whatever the fuck. Where are you guys? We're being arrested. We're being charged criminally. There have been 5 arrests because of this ordinance. We're still in court. Do something. Call a fucking hearing or meeting or whatever the fuck about it. Like, you voted no, and now they're abusing it. So, say something. Let me check out the comments before I move on to another topic, because I did put a few things in the description that I wanted to talk about today. You bucket banger. It's 7 a.m. There's 7 of us, and it's 7 a.m. Oh, it's 7 a.m. There's 7 of us, and it's 7 degrees. You meant to say, right? They passed the ordinance because we were effective. Yep. They don't try to silence people who are doing nothing. They try to silence people who are doing something. So you can call us annoying. You can question who's paying these people. That was one of the city councilors, Tanya Fernandez Anderson. Who's paying these people? Or is there some level of mental instability or something ridiculous like that? Like, dude, I wish. I mean, technically, whatever. I wish that I was paid for activism. Please come pay me, because I am struggling. It was only about anti-vaccine people. Yeah. Yep. The ordinance was only enforced at Wu's house. They never told us to leave anyone else's house like Margaret Cook's. Yes. Big deal right here. After the ordinance was passed, after people had been arrested, we tried out some other places in Boston. We went to Margaret Cook's house. Who's Margaret Cook? The commissioner, the Boston Public Health Commissioner, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. Margaret Cook's house in the South End. Nothing happened. Nobody said anything about the ordinance. We were there at 7 a.m. Before 9. I know that. Michael Flaherty's house, right? But you know what? Those 2 people are white. So there's something there. They'll never talk about us going to white people's house, because then how can they call us racist if we're protesting in white people's houses, right? We went to Michael Flaherty's house, Margaret Cook's house. They didn't say anything about the ordinance. Did we go anywhere else in Boston? I feel like we did. Did we go back to Ed Flynn's house maybe? I don't know. But yeah, we went to a couple people's houses in Boston, and nobody ever said anything about the ordinance. So it literally only applies to Michelle Wu's house. Yep. Freedom of choice. Wu called others racist. She also ran to the Dorchester Reporter and the Globe, labeled someone a racist. I'll leave unnamed. She turns everything into a racial issue. Yep. Yes, she does. Wu is a racist. She hates the human race. When Wu took office, there were 44 reported hate crimes in Boston. Presently, there are over 110 hate crimes reported in Boston. Not a word from Wu or the Boston City Council members. That's ugly, people. I know, right? Remember, like back in the day when the mayor and the Boston police commissioner would show up to every single crime scene to report on what was being done to handle the crime scene? I need to get like a soundbite thing so that I can play crickets, because I need some crickets for that moment, because I don't think I've ever seen Wu or Michael Cox at a crime scene. You know who I do see is Joe DePina. That's who I be seeing at crime scenes, and Nez Porter, External Affairs on YouTube. Those are the people that I see at crime scenes. I don't see any mayor or Boston Police Commissioner at the crime scenes anymore. Joe DePina and Nez Porter, External Affairs. External Affairs Porter is his YouTube channel. Check it out. And Joe DePina is on Facebook and TikTok.
You don't just get it done. You have to train it and take care of it. And it's not that easy.
Did I apologize? I don't know what I apologized about, but I didn't mean it. Boston lost a true homeboy. Frank Baker didn't play. He's one of 13 kids. That's fucking hilarious, because I was talking about that today. Is that Frank Baker, I believe, again, correct me if I'm wrong, is the youngest of his siblings. And he's the 13th child. So he literally, it literally is a baker's dozen, because a baker's dozen is 13 and he's the 13th. And they are the bakers. I can't. Oh, God. I didn't like Tanya Fernandez telling protesters not to come into Roxbury, go somewhere else. She said, Wu standing right next to her. Tanya was way out of line. Tanya better understand segregation is long over and discrimination is illegal, Tanya. Yeah. What's funny about that is that it wasn't us when she said that. We weren't there that day. So was it Joa? I don't remember. I don't know who was there. Or maybe there was a group that was protesting gentrification that we had seen at one of the coffee hours one time. And when Tanya Fernandez said that, it wasn't us. She was like, go to the white neighborhoods. Go to the white neighborhoods. Like you're disturbing my aunties or something. And we're like, what is she talking about? Because I'm pretty sure that the protesters that were there weren't even white. I don't think. I don't know what she's talking about. Wu deserves to be protested everywhere that she is in public. Ed Flynn, about defending Wu. Yeah, he's fucking a loser, Ed Flynn. We went to his house a couple times. He was a fucking peach. The cops never fucked with us over there, though. So I probably shouldn't say that. I'm going to get them in trouble. But yeah, we went to Ed Flynn's house a few times. Those neighbors really were mad about us. But I don't think they were mad about us because they like Ed Flynn. I think they were just mad that we were being loud. But fuck Ed Flynn. Ah.
No.
Commies gonna be commies. The state spend money for a trial. The jury will find you not guilty. Boston City Council members, not all, don't give a crap about Boston or its residents. They're more concerned with a pay raise. This is true. Like the only thing that they all agree on is giving themselves more money. Thank you, Ira. Yeah, Margaret Cook is the Commissioner of Public Health. Yeah, I don't even think we saw cops at Flaherty's house at all. Excuse my mother. Yeah, so let me see. I don't even remember what else I actually put in the description of this, but I want to talk about a few things before I go. Let me just go check. Hold on. Sorry. Okay. Ordinance, City Council, inmate visits, North End. So the inmate visits, I do have a little bit of an update on that. Hi, Padma. Padma Scott is just declared today that she's running for City Council, District 7, Tanya Fernandez Anderson's seat on the City Council. That's exciting. But yeah, so the inmate visits. I think pretty much everybody at this point has seen the video from Saturday that I posted. I'm getting a lot of hate on that video because of the mask issue, but that's fine because even hate brings more visibility. So thank you to the haters. All these people are mad about a mask issue, but my point for posting that video was to highlight the fact that inmates at Suffolk County House of Corrections, which most of us know as South Bay, have not gotten in-person visits since March of 2020. I think there was like one period of time a few months ago where they tried to bring it back and then supposedly there was an outbreak or something and they ended it, right? So I was trying to go visit an inmate on Saturday. It was like a spontaneous, unplanned thing. I did call beforehand and I asked the woman, I said, you guys aren't doing visits? Because on their website, it says they're not doing visits. So for all the haters, all the hate that I'm getting about, oh, you should have called. Oh, if you look at their website, it says they're not doing visits. So like you're an idiot for even going. I looked at the website. I saw that it said that there were no visits since March of 2020, and there was no update after that. So I called and I said, are you guys not doing visits? And she said visiting hours at 3:30. So then I said, is there like do you have to be on a list or anything? Because it's been a long time since I've visited somebody, but I have visited my fair share of inmates over the course of my adult life in multiple different locations. So I don't necessarily remember how each one does their different set of, rules and procedures for visiting, right? I know that some places you have to be on the inmate gets a list of like 3 people that can visit them and you have to be on the list. So I asked her, hold on. So I asked her if you have to be on a list and she said, no, it's first come, first serve. Right. And so I know how that works. So I go there They took away parking over there, by the way. You cannot park on Bradston Street, which you used to be able to, but now it's only like state official vehicles can park there. So you have to park on Atkinson Street, which is where all the tents and homeless people are. So that's cool. So you have to like walk through that to be able to walk over there, kind of. So I go there and there's nobody in the lobby, which is strange because there's usually a full lobby at visiting hour of people waiting to go to their visit. And she says, first that I have to put on a mask. And I'm like, is visiting hour right now? And she tells me we don't do in-person visits, they're virtual. And then she's just telling me that I need to put on a mask or I need to leave. So we didn't really have much of a conversation after that. But after the fact, I learned that now I actually did have a virtual visit since then. So now I know the process and I've been through it, so I know how it works. So here's the thing, right? You've always had to pay for phone calls with inmates, right? If a virtual visit, the way I see it is if a virtual visit is an option, then that's fine to charge for it, right? Because it's an option. If you don't want to pay, go in person. It's free to go visit an inmate. But if you have taken away the option of going in person, I don't think that you should be charging money for people to have a virtual visit because they didn't have an option. And so they're charging $6 plus tax it's like $5.95 plus tax to do a virtual visit. And even crazier, when you do a visit in person, it's an hour long or maybe even an hour and a half at some places. This virtual visit is only 20 minutes long. So now on the first virtual visit that I had, we got disconnected and we couldn't hear each other. So we both had to like log off and log back in. And it took up almost 5 minutes of the visit. And we didn't get that back. So it's flawed. It's stupid. And then also he could never hear me for the whole thing. So I had to write messages on a notebook and hold it up to the camera. Like the most ridiculous thing. Total waste of money. That's crazy. And then I found out too, which might not be news to some people, but it's definitely news to me. I was not aware that inmate phone calls that the sheriff's departments or jails or whatever departments profit off of inmate phone calls. So I just assume that Securus, or whatever company facilitates the calls were the ones that got paid for the calls because it's their service. I didn't know that the jails profit off of phone calls. They get a cut. And that's absolutely fucking ridiculous. I'll say it again. I was talking about this the other day. Being incarcerated does not make you less of a human, first of all. Also, being incarcerated doesn't even mean that you actually committed a crime. It means that somebody determined that it's likely that you committed a crime. And, as you can see from what's happening with this ordinance and all kinds of things going on, this piece of hair is really bothering me. They arrest people over bullshit. They want to put people in jail over bullshit. And I mean, people have known this forever, right? So, again, this is not a left or right issue. This is an issue that affects everybody. I guess good for you if you've never known anybody that's had to serve time in jail and you've never had to deal with these problems. That's great. But I think that a lot of people have known somebody at one point or another that's been incarcerated. And it's disgusting how they treat these people. First of all, it's disgusting how you get treated when you're being arrested. Never mind going to a holding cell, having to be in a court holding cell, having to transfer between jails and police departments and courthouses and all that. Like all of that's bullshit. The way that they treat people in those processes are bullshit. But then to actually have to do time to be an inmate, like these people are abused left and right. And like House of Corrections, think about it. It's in the name, House of Corrections. Like it's not House of Punishment. It's not House of Torture. It's a House of Corrections. Like, you know, I'm pretty sure that the initial point of jail is to like pay a penalty for breaking a crime, you know, do some time like isolated from society to work on yourself and to rehabilitate and to, you know, prepare for re-entry into society as a better person who is, you know, not going to break laws anymore. Right? Isn't that what it's supposed to be? It's not supposed to be cruel and unusual torture and punishment. And I think that a lot of people actually think that it is supposed to be that way. But it's not. Like, you know, what I mean, whatever about fucking murderers and child molesters and rapists. Who cares what happens to those people, right? As long as they were rightfully committed, right? Convicted, rightfully convicted and not set up, right? Who cares what happens to those people? But everybody else, like, you know, fraud, money laundering, stealing, these things that are not like, they're bad, but I don't think that they're unforgivable. And we're treating these people like they're the scum of the earth. You know, it's disgusting. Yeah, it is. It's zero rehabilitation and total punishment. That's exactly what it is. And it's guilty until proven innocent when you're in the, you know, like, I don't know if you would call it like litigating process or like, you know, arraignment process or whatever. But yeah, guilty until proven innocent. You being detained until hopefully you can prove yourself innocent. Exactly. You know, even when we got arrested for fucking disturbing the peace, you know, moms protesting in dresses at that, and they're trying to put shackles on our ankles. Like, it's just humiliating and degrading and disgusting what they do to people. It's so sad, the cycle of street to jail. Once you're a felon, it's almost impossible to get a decent job or get grants for school. Then they glorify violence in media and music, and it's a sad, vicious cycle. Right. And they do this on purpose. And they give these types of people platforms on purpose to perpetuate the sad, vicious, violent cycle and the drugs and sex and everything else. You know, it's really sad. But yeah, so that's where I'm at with the inmate visit thing. I think people should be making noise about it. I think that it should be a bigger deal than what it is. I know that people protested at South Bay last September because there were, I want to say, 4 unexplained, uninvestigated deaths that happened there. And you know what? Somebody just sent me the flyer today. So let me like pay some respect to that situation. Hold on. Yeah, September 24th, there was a rally at South Bay. Thank you for calling it rally, but I mean, I would probably have called that a protest because that would be where the sheriff is, no? 4 people have died while detained in Suffolk Sheriff custody since July of last year. Rashawn Wilson. Rashawn? I think it says Rashawn or Rashawn. One of those. Rashawn Wilson. Aisha Johnson. Edward J. something Berg. It's blurry. Sorry. Isberg, maybe. And Carl Chuck Rabois, maybe. they died. Free all who have been brutalized and neglected in Boston's jails. Generations have been tormented inside South Bay and Nashua Street. Nashua Street is the jail over in Leverett Circle. We demand releases and an independent investigation into recent deaths. Raise your voice to say, not one more. Shut it down. And I don't recall ever hearing a follow-up to that rally. I didn't go to it. I didn't know the people who were organizing it, and I wasn't at that point participating yet in like Boston things. I was still doing like the medical freedom stuff in other parts of the state. So I did drive by because I didn't know about it. So I drove through there. I drove like down Atkinson Street and I saw the protest, but I didn't attend it and I didn't know who was organizing it. But I never heard a follow-up about that. And it makes me really sad that somebody was paying attention enough to protest that, but I haven't heard of anybody protesting these ridiculous COVID restrictions that are still going on. It's crazy. And I wouldn't have even known if I didn't try to go visit somebody myself, you know? Too many deaths at South Bay. Outrageous. Yeah. And I mean, I think there have been more since then. And you know, when people aren't getting their visits, because a visit is supposed to be free. So sometimes I would think people get visits instead of phone calls because phone calls cost money. You know, so if your family can't come visit you for free and they have no money to pay for you to call them, you know, and it's also easier to do a visit because you just show up. If you don't have to be on a list, you just show up. For a phone call, it's like, I guess you could write a letter, but I feel like who does that? Like how do you get in contact with somebody? How do you get your phone number to them? How, you know, who knows? Who knows? And what if there's something stopping them from making a call and you have no way of knowing? Like a visit is like a simple way to have instant communication. So that's that on the inmate visits. If anybody wants to help figure out a way that we can fight this, let's go. DM me, please. The other thing that I wanted to talk about a little bit is the North End. I am really disappointed in the lack of resistance from the North End. Last year, I'm like, I don't know where I want to start with this issue. Yeah, I don't think that any deaths were investigated, but I could be wrong. I haven't dove into that issue yet, but I can. And hopefully, my next show is tomorrow, so I don't anticipate knowing those details by tomorrow, but when I get them, I'll talk about them. Okay, so last year, since COVID, since I think 2021, restaurants all across the city of Boston have been allowed to have outdoor dining because when they got to open back up after the shutdowns, they could only have like limited seating inside. It was like 20% and then 40% and then 80%, like ridiculous. They could only have limited seating inside. So they were allowed to have tables outside to be able to accommodate more customers. And so 2021, I believe, everybody participated in outdoor dining all across the city of Boston. 2022, the North End only, Mayor Wu imposed a $7,500 fee for them to be allowed to participate in outdoor dining. There was a huge resistance at first, a very loud resistance. from a handful of, we saw them all over the news. I was sharing their video clips on TikTok and Facebook and Instagram. Their videos were going viral. We went down to City Hall and protested with them. The bigger names, the bigger guys that own bigger restaurants on Hanover Street, which is the main street that runs through the whole North End. Those guys were having secret meetings behind closed doors with Mayor Wu and her administration, and probably making deals that nobody knows about, and they weren't putting up like any resistance. The side street guys, however, who, you know, if you've ever been to the North End, you walk straight down Hanover Street. So the Hanover Street restaurants are the ones that get the business first. And then once those restaurants are full, people trickle down to the side streets. So the side streets kind of get like the leftover business, right? And the side streets are like much more narrow and more congested and harder to walk down. So they have to wait on the bigger restaurants to fill up before they start getting their leftovers. So there was a whole bunch of drama last summer about this, this extortion is what it is, and allowing the whole rest of the city to have outdoor dining for free and making the North End pay for it was ridiculous. There was no explanation as to where this number came from, this $7,500. If you sum up this $7,500 fee across all the restaurants in the North End, it comes to about $500,000. And that doesn't even count the extra equipment and the barriers that had to be bought because the city required a specific type of barrier for them to put up to, block in the seating. So they had to buy special barriers and, had to pay money for extra equipment. And they also had to pay monthly for each parking spot that they took. I think it's like $450, I want to say, for each parking spot that they used for their outdoor seating. That was a monthly bill. So if a restaurant took up 2 parking spots, it was like somewhere between $900 and $1,000 a month that they were paying for those parking spots to take up for outdoor dining. Then, so, there were fees on top of this fee, and no other restaurants in the city of Boston had to pay any fees at all. And it wasn't the money so much that was the issue. It was the discrimination. It was, and also, I think something that doesn't get mentioned enough is that the North End did not seem to enforce mandates much during 2021 and 2020. There was a lot of like silent resistance down there, no discrimination. The North End seemed to be welcoming to everybody when other places in Boston were kicking people out over masks, right? So, I would say that this fee was in retaliation for their non-cooperation with the mandates in 2021. But that's just me speculating, right? So they had to pay the fee. They had other fees that they had to pay. They got a lawyer. They were fighting it. They made national news, local news like every other day. And they even actually came to Wu's house to protest with us one day. We set up outdoor dining in front of Wu's house and had a few restaurant owners there with us saying shame on Wu. That was a fun day. So there was some good loud resistance in the beginning. And then they filed a lawsuit. and they all paid the fee. So I was very disappointed, and felt like a little bit defeated, obviously out of my control. I don't own a restaurant in the North End. I have no like stake, right, in the game. But I do believe that I do have stake because this is my city. I was born and raised here, and the North End is the most historic part of the state and of Boston, and probably one of the most historic parts of New England. And the Freedom Trail goes through the North End. Like, literally, America's freedom was birthed in Boston. And, Paul Revere's house is in the North End. And, like, it makes me want to cry just even thinking about that. Like, we also protested at Paul Revere's house, too, because they were trying to enforce masks. Side note. But freedom started here. And gradually, it's being taken away here. We know that we don't have a First Amendment here. They're arresting us for expressing our First Amendment rights, right? For expressing our free speech. And they're silencing us. We already know that the internet is heavily censored. The radio, TV, whatever, newspapers, media, all of that. We have to be our own media, right? But the North End is a piece of history. And they're taking it away. Make no mistake, it's going to be gone. They're just going to do it gradually to make it less painful, maybe. Or it's not less painful. They don't care about anybody's pain. They're doing it gradually to make it not so obvious, right? Like this is something that just happened over time. But they know what their end goal is. A lot of us know what the end goal is. They're trying to eliminate small business. They're going to eliminate small business. They're going to eliminate tight-knit communities. I hate that word. Tight-knit neighborhoods where people talk to each other and people know each other, and there's families and people raise their kids, and they're getting rid of all that. Everything is supposed to be on the internet. They don't want us talking face to face. They don't want us talking to each other in person. They don't want us communicating with people of differing views because they don't want the two sides of opinions to educate each other. They want to be in control, and they're going to be in control. And the North End is the ultimate example of that, because last year they tore the North End apart, right? So you can say that it's about the residents not wanting the outdoor dining there. And you can say that, it affects their quality of life. But what the city did to the North End last year was the first step in taking total control. They divided the North End. The North End is now in a war with the North End. It's the residents versus the restaurant owners, and even restaurant owners versus restaurant owners, because some of the big guys are getting their corporate deals. Some of the big guys are moving up because they made backdoor deals. There's big names in the North End that are getting big deals in other parts of the city. Seaport, development properties. And they're turning their backs on the little guys with their little restaurants, their mom and pop restaurants in the North End. And it's really sad to watch. And it's even sadder to watch as somebody who has been fighting for the North End since last year. And somebody, I mean, George Mendoza ran a write-in campaign for city council last year, and I put my all into helping that 5-day campaign, and I would do it again over and over and over again, so, and a lot of us, tons of people came out to help with that campaign. Tons of people came out to advocate for the North End. Nobody wants to see the North End go down. And sorry, not sorry, the North End is not doing enough. If we know that the judges are just as corrupt as the politicians, why do we think we're going to win in court? It doesn't matter who your lawyer is. I don't think anybody's going to win in court with anything, to be honest. I have no faith in the judicial system at all. So to put all your eggs in one basket or all your pasta in one bowl is ridiculous and foolish to me. So the way I see it is they're taking your businesses. They're coming for your livelihood in your neighborhood. And they have already succeeded in the first step of divide and conquer. They have divided the North End. Resident against business owner. And even business owner against business owner. And the people in the North End, whether residents or restaurant owners, you're letting it happen. You're not fighting it. You're fighting each other. And that's what they want you to do. Because when you're fighting each other, you don't have the energy, the stamina, the strength, the mindset to fight the actual enemy, which is City Hall, Michelle Wu, the City Council, your fucking liaisons, Aaron Michaelwitz, whoever, Gigi Coletta, whoever you want to put in the position as your enemy, you're ignoring that person to fight with your neighbor. You restaurant owners are ignoring the politicians and fighting with the fucking residents. The residents are ignoring the politicians and fighting with the fucking restaurant owners. And you're all going to lose the North End for everybody. It's fucking devastating to sit here and have to watch this play out the way that it is and not see anybody fucking stand their ground. And I'm sad. I'm upset. It's my city. And I'm fucking pissed. Monday, the whole rest of the city gets to start their outdoor dining, and the North End does nothing. I just wish that they would step up. I really do. I wish that, if you're a resident and you don't like outdoor dining, look at the bigger picture, dude. Seriously. It's very much not about outdoor dining or quality of life. It's about finding the perfect way to divide you all. And they did it. And it's working, and you're letting it work. So, if anybody could please tag residents of the North End in this video or share this video to somewhere where somebody might hear what I'm saying, fucking stop. It's the summer, and maybe it won't be a thing forever. I don't know how else to say it. You're allowing the city to come in and take over the North End. You're allowing them to divide you. This, what once was a tight-knit community who stuck up for each other, right? You guys kept Starbucks out. You guys keep big corporations out. They know that the North End is strong enough to fight them when they stand together. They know that because you guys have done it. Okay, same thing with Charlestown. Charlestown's not going unnoticed. They know how strong Charlestown is. So Charlestown, beware and use this as a lesson for when they come and try to divide you guys against each other. Okay, they're dividing everybody. It was successful last year. And now this year, the North End is not allowed to do outdoor dining at all. And the residents are happy about that. So, I don't know a clearer way to paint the picture. You North End residents, and business owners alike have allowed the government to come in and divide you, and that is going to be your downfall. And like, now's the chance to save it. If you don't fight now, you're done. That's it. There is no real community in the North End anymore. It's all rich yuppies that have lived there for 2 years tops, that are rich woke leftists, and the business owners have to placate them. The North End sold out, in my opinion. I was a real estate agent for 2 years that only did rentals. They aren't from here. They don't have roots here. They don't fucking care. That's not true. There are some people still living in the North End that are lifelong residents. There are lifelong residents living in the North End that own the buildings that these restaurants occupy. So it's also a fight between like landlords and business owners. Yeah, there's yuppies. Yeah, there's implants, but there's still some lifelong residents, and there's a lot of residents that are against outdoor dining. I've been there watching it happen over the past year, and I've heard the conversations. I've seen the conversations. I've had the conversations. The residents are, they're being played by Michelle Wu and the city council, city hall, whatever. Also notice this, that in 2022, it was always Michelle Wu making announcements and handling situations. And now in 2023, you don't see her really making announcements and handling the tough situations. She has a liaison and a fucking committee for everything. Right? She's not the one that has to deliver the bad news anymore. She's got little minions to do it for her. Side note, keep track of that. Big money exchange to North End business owners, just saying. Well, I mean, like the big ones. Yeah, because there's, I think, one or two at least who are opening businesses or partnering with businesses at Seaport. And people that are doing development deals or have development contracts with the city. So it's all of that. Thank you. That's Shannon's way of telling me, Catherine, you've been going for too long. It's time to wrap it up. But yeah, those were my only topics for tonight anyway. I never actually posted about it. So for anybody that tunes in regularly at this point, sorry that I didn't post that I wasn't doing the show on Wednesday night this week because I had a speaking engagement last night. So I switched it tonight, and so I'll be back here tomorrow night. I was supposed to have a guest on tonight, which is kind of why I wasn't really sure where my conversation was going to go today, because I had a planned guest, and then she was busy with work today, so she couldn't do it today. Hopefully she'll be here next week or the week after, but yeah, so I'll be here tomorrow night, and I will hopefully have an update about whatever happens in court tomorrow morning. If you're in the Boston area at all, come down for court support. All you need to do is sit in the courtroom. That's it. We'll be down at West Roxbury Court tomorrow morning at 9. And yeah. Again, if anybody could get a clip of, my piece about the North End and share it to the residents, please do so. I think it's really sad what's happening there, and I hope that at some point, hopefully within the next couple of days, somebody's going to step up and do something. And yeah, Shannon says share out the video to everywhere. We need to get word out for all of this. Like I've said a million times, we have to be our own media. And it's not about me. I don't particularly like being on camera. I don't like the way I sound. I don't like the way I look, blah, blah, blah. But this is what we have to do, So if you don't want to hear me talk about the shit, then you start your own show and talk about the shit. Or, we have to be our own media. We have to do this. So please share the video. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. It's called People's Press Media. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. Once we get to 1,000 subscribers, we'll start streaming live from YouTube while we are out doing public action. We were thinking about doing like a, is it Kate's Unsafe Space? Is that what it's called? Like those shows where like they go on college campuses and ask people questions about politics and shit. Me and my friend Michael were thinking about doing something like that. Probably not on college campuses, probably like in the North End or downtown Boston or something. Asking people questions. So once we get to 1,000 subscribers, we can start to stream from YouTube directly live because I use StreamYard. Right now I'm streaming on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube, but you can't do StreamYard on a phone. So in order for me to be streaming live in public, I'm usually always on Facebook, but I would like to get on YouTube to stream live also. And I need 1,000 subscribers for that. So please subscribe to People's Press Media on YouTube if you haven't already. Check out the videos that are already there. I did say the other day that I was going to be posting a video that I've been sitting on of a conversation that we had with somebody on Mass and Cass. So I haven't posted it yet because there's still some editing that I need to do, but I'm hoping to get it up within the next couple days. It's a very interesting conversation. And, then I'll come on one of the shows and talk about that. Mass and Cass is a huge issue, especially for me personally. And yeah, subscribe to the YouTube channel, share the video. Definitely go on the YouTube video after it's posted and comment on it. Comments on the replay help a lot with visibility and algorithms and stuff like that. And yeah, I think that's it. If you want to be a guest on the show, or if you want me to bring up a topic on the show, or if you want to suggest somebody else to be a guest on the show, let me know. You can get in contact with me either in the comments, you can DM me, or you could go to wethepeopleofma.org and fill out the sign-up form. And I think that's about it. I'm going to be done for tonight. Mary says, tell your lawyer to tell the judge to dismiss this sham case. Enough is enough. Tried that. Hasn't worked yet. Thank you, Patrice. Thank you. Thank you guys for engaging. Thank you for sharing. I will see you guys tomorrow night at 10. Bye.